Hey guys, Chris and Tom asked me to do the Building on the Rock video this week. Sorry it's a bit late, I've had like a massive cold at the start of the week and stuff, so I wasn't able to really talk. I hope you're having a good Easter. Basically last week we left off with Sam talking about teaching about the law from the Sermon on the Mount, and I've been left with teaching about anger, which is Matthew 5 verses 21 to 26. I'm not going to read it out for you because I assume you all have your Bibles there. And I just want to say that after I've done my little talk here, I expect you to go off, read it yourselves and pray about it, because I could just be talking absolute rubbish now, but if you read it yourselves, you never know what God's going to say to you. So yeah, I'm not going to read it out to you, but there's the passage sort of is split into three main sections, so I'm going to do a good old-fashioned three-point sort of sermon sort of thing. So the first section, it talks about how anger is as bad as any sin, really. The second section talks about about trying to worship while you are holding on to anger. And the third part talks about letting go of anger before it's too late, sort of thing. So yeah, let's get straight into it. The first part, anger is as bad as any sin. Basically, in layman's terms, it says that if you commit murder, you would be put in front of the courts and you would be judged, and everyone knows that and everyone expects that. But then Jesus goes on to say that if you hold anger, then you will also be judged. And he says very clearly, in the same wording, that you'll be judged equally as you would if you were murdered. And it's talking about judgment by God, not judgment by man. So there's a pretty big difference here. And I was sort of thinking about it, and I was sort of praying about it, and I was wondering, why do we get angry? What is anger? And I've got my notes here. And I sort of thought that, when you're angry, it's because you feel like justice hasn't been done about what someone's done to you, or someone's done something and no one else knows about, and you feel like something needs to be done. And I just got sort of like a word that I need to look at James. So I've got a little passage from James 4 where it says that it says here, James 4 verses 11 and 12 says, "Don't speak evil against each other, dear brothers and sisters. If you criticize and judge each other, then you are criticizing and judging God's law." And this bit's the kicker. Your job is to obey the law, not to judge whether it applies to you. God alone, who gave you the law, is the judge. He alone has the power to save or destroy. So what right do you have to judge your neighbour? And in the context of this passage about the anger and stuff, I was really thinking about it, and I sort of realised that by holding on to anger towards someone else, what you're really doing is not trusting God to deal with that situation. And the first thing you really need to do is trusting God to deal with people who have wronged his children. It's not our job to expect justice. It's not our job to expect things to be done the way we expect it to be done. It's God's. He's got the power. He's the judge. It's not our job. And really, it's something we need to resolve. Which leads us on to the next section, which is about holding on to anger when you're trying to worship. And it sort of says in layman's terms again that if you're at the altar before God, about to present a sacrifice, and you remember something that someone's done to you, you need to go and resolve that before you worship. And if you think about what is worship to God, when you worship, God goes crazy. There's parties in heaven when you worship. It's like God's favourite thing for you to do is just praise his name. It just gives him loads of joy. So it sort of says how big a thing it is if he would rather you go deal with your problems before you worship him. And I got pointed to another passage in Ephesians, which I hope you all know because it's an amazing book and you should all have read Ephesians. It's Ephesians 26, and it says, Don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil." So this sort of says, it's something you have to do right away. You don't go to bed. Don't let the day end while there's still issues going on, while you're still angry, while you still have a grudge with someone else. It's something you have to deal with right away because, that it shows in the passage we read from Matthew how important it is to God that you deal with that. It's paramount important. You have to do it straight away. And in Ephesians it says that anger gives a foothold to the devil. How can you worship God while the devil has a foothold in your life? It's something you have to deal with, and God can do that for you as long as you trust in him and you put those issues to him. And if you know there's an issue you can resolve, then you should resolve it, because it's just another thing that can be cut off of your life, and it's something that makes you more pure, makes you more Christ-like. So let's talk about the third section very quickly, which is about resolving these issues before it's too late. And basically this sort of section of this passage says that if you're on the way to the courts with your adversary, then you need to resolve your issues with him before you get there, because he can testify against you and you will be thrown in prison and you will be there until your debt is paid. And really, you know, but the two things you need to take away from this is, first of all, you know, trying to resolve an issue after you've hit this catalyst, after you've been to this trial, there's no point doing it because you're going to be in jail anyway. So, like, what I take away from this is that you can't hold these grudges against people because you don't know how they're going to affect you in the future, in the next weeks, in the next months, in the next years. Like, holding these grudges against people can really affect you negatively. Whereas if you have a good relationship with everybody, they can't really, you know, there's nothing really they can hold on to against you. So I really just, someone said something to Kings a couple of weeks ago, and I can't remember who it was, but I just want to finish with this. They said something along these lines, is that if there's two people who were going to church, who something had happened between them, and they both turned up on a Sunday evening before the service started, and one of them said to the other, you know, I'm sorry for what I did, I just want to put this behind us. And then went away and started worshipping God. And the second person, you know, they didn't apologise about it, they didn't lay that aside and they kept that in their heart. Who's going to be the person who doesn't receive God's blessings in that particular meeting? Who's going to be the person whose heart is heavy from that? It's not going to be the person who's still holding on to that grudge, the person who's still expecting justice to be done. It's the person who's laid that aside, laid that before God, and made that it resolved their issues. So yeah, I don't know how long I've been going on, but I'm gonna end it there. And I just really want to encourage you guys, you know, because we haven't got Building on the Rock for the next couple of weeks, just to go over the passages we've learned from over the last couple of weeks and just read them and pray about them, because again, I could be talking rubbish, and you know, you never know what God might want to say to you. It might be something completely different from what I've been saying. So yeah, peace out, have a good Easter. I love you guys.